newspaper. We're here at Liquor Mart at 15th and Canyon in Boulder, home of all your tailgating needs, and we're here to talk about the CU football team traveling to Cal this week. Look back a little bit on last week's victory over Colorado State. That's where I want to start, Neil. What do you feel like we learned about this team from watching them beat up on the Rams last week?
They're like you, Kyle. They've improved. They got better over last year. I mean, look at the difference in this week. This week you didn't go, I'm Kyle Ringo, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it was just smooth delivery, good stuff. And that's what you saw from the Buffs last week. I thought the Buffs looked much better than they did a year ago. I think you saw the potential for a pretty good team. They made some mistakes. There's still some penalty problems. But if you look at what happened in the Colorado State game, some of the big plays they made, the way the defense played, certainly it was an improvement.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I also feel like I really don't know what this team is capable of. I think I'm going to know a lot more about that. I'm going to know the answer to that question a lot more definitively watching them on the road against a BCS conference team at Cal this week. I think it'll be a much better judge. The CSU Rams are so young and playing with such a lack of confidence right now, being on a 10-game losing streak. It was 9 games before they played the Buffs. I just don't feel like I got a real good
and it's not
sense
just a,
of what
it's not just a
CU is
BCS
capable
team.
of.
It's a good BCS team.
Yeah.
It's a talented BCS team. They've recruited well. Jeff Tedford's teams are always ranked up there in the recruiting rankings. They have good team speed. They have good players. It's a team that's in the top 25 more often than not, especially at the beginning of the season. And I think this is, like you said, it's a very good test. I think what we saw last week was potential. The things that Colorado might be able to do well against a good team, but you're right, this is going to be a great litmus test for them.
Yeah, you mentioned the word that I think is key this week, and that's speed. The California Bears have it everywhere. We're just spending a little bit of time earlier with Coach Dan Hawkins at his press luncheon, and he talked about the Bears being, a very fast, physical, athletic team, and speed is going to be a big difference this week compared to what the Buffs were up against last week.
And that's what's hurt Colorado in the last few years. I mean, teams with good, with good team speed have hurt Colorado. And I think Colorado this year at least has the potential to match up with those kind of guys. If you look on the outside corners, I think Jaleel Brown and Jimmy Smith can match up with any set of wide receivers you want to throw at them. I think they honestly might be as good as any pair of corners that they're, of any team that Colorado plays this year. I think those two could be as good as anybody they see. So I think they have the speed to match up there. Hawk talked about their defensive line, Cal's defensive line being very fast off the ball. That's going to be a great test for Colorado's offensive line.
I think offensively, Colorado finally has a little bit of speed of its own to throw at an opponent,
Indeed,
which
yeah.
it has lacked in recent years. You were making the point during the CSU game the other day when the Buffs scored their first touchdown. It was Trayvon Patterson catches the little ball over the middle, and I think you made the point that in past years that might have been a completion, but it would only been a 6 or 7 yard completion. Yeah. The receiver would have been tackled, and that would have been that. Trayvon catches the ball and runs away from the CSU defenders into the end zone, and so you have a guy like Trayvon Patterson who's capable of that. You have another guy in Tony Clemens who's capable of that. Paul Richardson, the true freshman, is capable of that. And then a guy we didn't really see a lot of in the CSU game, Brian Lockridge, was a little bit banged up going into that game, I think. But as a tailback, he is one of the faster guys on the team, a nice compliment to Rodney Stewart, and it'd be interesting to see if he gets some more action this week.
I tell you, since you're on the topic of wide receivers and their team speed, I think what you're going to see this week, and you saw it just one time last week, they tried to go deep. They tried to really stretch the field. Tyler Hansen ends up throwing it downfield, throws an interception, got a little bit greedy there after they had their interception of their own. But I think you're going to see that this weekend. I think you're going to see Colorado come out and try and stretch the field a little bit more than they did last week. I think you're going to see them get Patterson downfield, get Richardson downfield, get Clemens downfield, and try and make Cal's defense be honest. Try and make them respect the long ball so then they can do some of the other things.
All right, so obviously Colorado comes into this game on a 12-game road losing streak. I say 12 games. The number really could be 11 because part of that 12 is a game at Jacksonville against Florida
Against
State
Florida
a couple of
State.
years ago. That was supposedly on a neutral field, but anytime you're playing Florida State and Jacksonville, it's not really a neutral
That's-
field game.
yeah.
Or it is, it's
Yeah.
a true road game.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the Buffs have a 12-game road losing streak. They haven't been a real confident team on the road in recent years. We talked with Jaleel Brown, Tyler Hansen today a little bit. Both of them think that the team is just older, more mature, better prepared to handle going on the road. What do you think?
They talked about that same confidence level last week, and they said they were more confident going into CSU. They were more experienced, and they talked about not making mistakes and just having a better feel for what they were supposed to do in that game. And I think they showed that. I honestly think Colorado came out, dominated that game from the very beginning. I think after the first quarter, there was nobody in that stadium that thought Colorado State was going to win that game. I mean, I honestly think Colorado dominated that, even though the score was 24-3. I think Colorado is going to go into this game with a lot more confidence. They actually think they're pretty good. I mean, and they're not just blowing smoke. I don't think they're trying to convince themselves. They actually believe that they're a good football team. I think they go out there and play a very good game this weekend.
So is that a prediction?
I think they win. I think Colorado. I think this is a great time to get Cal on the road. I don't think it's a great Cal team. I think they're young in some places. I think that they're not as good as they have been in the last few years. And I think this is a great opportunity for a very experienced Colorado team to go on the road and get rid of yet one more of the monkey on their back, whatever you want to call it.
I tend to agree with you in your assessment of Cal. I think there are some holes there. They have a good, solid quarterback in Kevin Riley, but when it comes to CU playing on the road, I've covered a lot of road losses here in the last couple of years, and I've seen this team just be a completely different team mentally on the road than it is at Folsom Field, where it's actually upset some pretty good teams. So I'm hesitant to pick the Buffs to win on the road. I'm going to have to see it to believe it, and I'm going to go with Cal this week.
I tell you what I'm basing this on. What was the last road game they played last year?
That was Oklahoma State. They played
And
pretty
I
good.
think they went down there and played really well. I think they went down and played well at Oklahoma State, started to play like a little bit of a veteran team. They gave it up in the end. The defense didn't play well, gave up some touchdowns to the quarterback there. But I think this team carries that over. I think they have figured out how to play on the road. I think they started to show it at the end of last year, and I think they carry it another step this year.
You got a score in mind?
Oh boy, I think this is going to be one of those games that's going to come down to to the fourth quarter, but I think Colorado can win in the fourth quarter. I'm going to say they're going to win this game about 32-24.
Wow, that was pretty close to what I had in mind. I was thinking Cal wins 31-27, so it sounds like an exciting game to watch.
I think it will be. I think people are going to be surprised at the maturity of this team. They're going to keep improving, just like old Kyle Ringo keeps getting better.
Now it'll probably be 6-3.
All right, we'll be back next week. Talk about that win over Cal and see what happens with the Rainbow Warriors coming to town.
Look at Mark.
Liquor Mart.